Richard McPherson, you're back.
Good to see you. It's been a while. I'm really happy to be back.
Listen, I have a plan, and it's not always a great plan, but it's okay because I have a plan nonetheless, and I have skill sets in making plans, not necessarily executing or having good plans, but I have plans. One plan is to get a hold of Governor Cox from Utah, specifically because they're not Scott Nolan. Is it Scott Nolan, the guy that it doesn't matter. There was a gentleman who was on a nationally recognized podcast, the Sean Ryan podcast, that is dealing in uranium mining and refining.
Scott Nolan is getting into that business.
That's guy. Okay, great. What I heard in that interview specifically was like, hey, there are really like 4 states that are very hot on nuclear, that are really pro-nuclear. And I was waiting to hear Idaho. I'm like, come on, baby. Idaho's not one of them. Yeah. It's like Utah, Wyoming, could have been Montana, and then like Washington or something, Washington State. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And shortly thereafter, I saw a news post from Governor Cox of Utah saying, hey, look, man, we got to bet on nuclear. And it just so happens that through, some random connections, I know somebody who knows Governor Cox and has helped an Idaho-based podcast interview Governor Cox. So I'm going to try to get a hold of him. But what I really want to know is like, what is it about Utah? What is it about Governor Cox's position that makes them aggressive on nuclear or really makes them one of the states where if you're, like a nuclear energy person, you're like, hey, man, that guy's really serious. What's the distinction between that and what's going on in Idaho?
Well, interesting about Governor Cox. First of all, he's got a program, I think he says something about gigawatts or something like that. He is great. But he is he's associated with, he and the governor of Texas, he and the governor of Louisiana, he and the governor of Idaho, he and the governor of Wyoming are all big on nuclear. And I applaud everything he's doing. However, Idaho, under Brad Little, we are the logical state to take the lead in the entire United States because we were the lead in putting the first 2 reactors in place. We don't have a lot of uranium. We don't need it. We can have it shipped here. But what we do have is, thanks to Governor Little and it's called something like the Western Association of Governors or something like that. They're going to have a meeting in Idaho Falls later this month, which I'm going to attend. And Brad Little is hosting it. Cox is going to be there. And among them, I don't know if the governors of Wyoming or Montana or who else will be there, sure. But it's really important for the country. It's important for Utah and Idaho and Wyoming, etc. But it's important for the country that these governors are taking the lead for the country and responding to the opportunity that President Trump has provided in the entire country. Now, from the nuclear standpoint, we've got the Idaho National Laboratory. The governor has had his line commission for many years. We have companies that are very involved in nuclear in Idaho, not the least of which can manufacture nuclear power plants right here in Idaho. A company over in Blackfoot, Idaho called Premier.
By the way, I had a friend text me and say he wants to come to Blackfoot with us.
Oh, good.
I was like, well, I don't know when I'm going. He's like, oh, come on, we can sing show tunes. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
I'll tell you, the first
people are calling. They're like, I want to do this. It's so cool. Like, take pictures, all these things. Yeah.
Poor Doug Sayer and his wife. When I got a tour of their facility in 2016, Doug Sayer had no idea my background. So my background is I used to go audit firms like him when I was in the Navy. And so I'm walking through his facilities, and as we walk through them and he's explaining each part of his facility and what they do, from his material handling system, which was all robotics, including having to be able to handle and manipulate the thickest metal in North America, right here in Blackfoot, Idaho. I'm looking to see what's wrong, because that's just in my nature. I'm not seeing anything wrong. there's a few changes I'd make here and there, but they're so small compared to overall. So I'm listening to him in his background and how he grew this company. He and his wife grew this company since 1996. I mean, he started the company and went out and got a nuclear stamp from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, put in place NQA-1, which is a nuclear quality assurance program, when everybody else was giving him up. Somehow he knew that nuclear was a future. And now he is there, but he is the state of Idaho. If you were to call me up and say, is there one person in the state of Idaho that I should go talk to about the state of Idaho and nuclear? Without fail, it'd be Doug Sayre. It wouldn't be on the INL. They've been struggling to stay alive ever since the 1995 Bat Settlement Agreement got in place. But Governor Little understands all of this. He knows that he has a manufacturing facility over in Blackfoot, Idaho. We are the logical state to take the lead. But Governor Cox has been so vocal about nuclear. I don't know him from Adam, but I love Cox, or I love Governor Cox, in a different way. And so what he brings to the table is he brings the enthusiasm and the drive that all these other governors need. And Wyoming's a gift to the country because they are, without doubt, the most energy rich state in the country that's providing energy to the rest of the country. And I've been to the 2023 and 2024 annual meeting they have about energy at the University of Wyoming. In 2023, it surprised me in that they were working with the federal government, specifically the USGS, and they're going to have all of the state aerial surveyed for all the minerals. They go back in September 2024. It's being done. It should be done in Idaho. It's being done a little bit, but it should be done in the entire state of Idaho. We need to know what minerals we have. Same way in Wyoming, same way in Utah. We know some of them, but we don't know all of them, and we especially don't know where they are. And today, with the ability to do aerial surveys with the equipment that we have in helicopters and airplanes, it can be done. And Governor Cox and Brad Little, and I don't know what other governors, will be up in Idaho Falls later this month, and I'm going to attend, and several other people are going to attend, simply to support what Governor Little is trying to do for this state and make this state the leader for all of the states to emulate. And associating with Governor Cox, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, etc., nothing can get better for this country than what they're doing.
When there's this Western Governors Association meeting, are they comparing notes, or are they just is it just a presentation of what the individual governors are doing? Like, what are they going to be able to say, like, hey, how about we collaborate and we all pitch in on, like co-development or research? Like, hey, let's all agree to engage in a backstop, and then we can all get the results from that, or something like that.
I think what they do, I haven't attended one of these before. I've known about a bunch of them, but I've never attended one. I think what they're doing more is talking about the general policy area.
Gotcha.
And public policy or public opinion, public policy is what we need changed in this country to be able to capitalize on nuclear.
Gotcha.
Public policy since right after President Eisenhower gave his speech in December of 1953 has been against nuclear power. It needs a change. These states can help to stimulate their own state representatives to make the case in the Congress to do more, because the opportunity exists for Congress to do more because the Trump administration exists. Because Trump is, for the first time in my lifetime, in anybody's lifetime, has been the first president to step up and tell us the importance of electricity and nuclear power since President Eisenhower.
So the opportunity is there. It's getting individual states and individual legislative bodies all on the same page to make public policy to take advantage of the federal opening that's being presented.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And the areas are ripe for this because, number one, it's electricity. And electricity should be, it isn't, but it should be, the number one security project in the United States. The second one is natural resource development. We have stymied natural resource development by changes in public policy over decades. We are not mining like we should. We are not developing agricultural lands like we should. We are not developing fishing like we should. We're not developing timber resources like we should.
Sure.
Then comes manufacturing. We have not modernized our manufacturing like we should have done because the natural resources haven't been available, and it's been easier to send manufacturing off to China since the National Environmental Policy Act was created in 1970. So our manufacturing has gone downhill. However, now the big chance that we have, because of President Trump's tariffs, it has forced people to relook at themselves, both Americans and foreigners involved in manufacturing. Well, we're no longer going to be able to ship to the United States like we have been, so let's go open a factory in the United States. The last I heard, he had about $1 trillion verbally committed to the United States just for new manufacturing. That will change America like we have never seen since the Industrial Revolution, because we can now use our own natural resources that are being developed, not quick enough, but the Secretary of Interior is trying, but we can manufacture our own products for our own use and for export and help other countries like we've never been able to do since the history of the Industrial Revolution, which started in the middle of the UK.
Are you concerned about the cost associated with this at all? And the cost meaning, for instance, I spoke to somebody recently about a mining project in Idaho, right? Open pit mine, big hard rock mine, big what it was called a tails.
The tailings.
The tailings.
Tailings. Everybody's concerned about the tailings.
Right. And she was like, look, the tailings, essentially, they're dumping all this stuff with water and toxic stuff, whatever. And she was like, the dam that they make to make sure all this stuff stays in is going to be 10,000 feet long and 800 feet high. It was like 2 miles. She was like, yeah, almost 2 miles long. It was a big, I was like, that's a lot.
Yes and no.
Yes and no, because I followed it up with, okay, but somebody's doing this, right?
Yes.
There's somewhere in the world that this is being done on our behalf. We just don't see it, and we don't have to interact with it, and we don't have to deal with it. So that's one, right? So we appreciate not having to have this in our backyard. The other problem is, and I don't like that that's the setup, and I'm not advocating for or against. I was like, but the other problem that we really have is if we're getting stuff out of the ground and we don't have it in our backyard and we're like patting ourselves on the back because we haven't destroyed our backyard. Okay, fine, whatever. Probably not a great idea. But if we really need it now, we're beholden to the rest of the world. So there's a cost, an ugly cost associated, both environmental, moral, security wise. The cost of all of this, though, do you think that the cost is outweighed by the benefit?
The benefits is what we must have, and we must pay the costs. But whoever this woman is you're talking to, let me give you an example. When I was at the International Atomic Energy Agency, our work was to study nuclear fuel cycle facilities, the environment, and public opinion. We ran into a problem in the environment. Not a lot of good projects to compare, to look at what nuclear people could do, which is mostly in mining. So I found two. One north slope of Alaska, at the time was owned by ARCO, and the Big Brown Mine a lignite mine southeast of Dallas, owned by Texas Utilities at the time. So I went to visit them. And once we got over the fact that I wasn't there to also cause them problems, they both accepted me and took me for a tour.
Right.
Went to North Slope, got a great tour. What you hear in Washington and all the anti-everybody's, absolutely not true. Great operation up there. I went down to the Big Brown Mine, a lignite mine, surface mine. Lots of residual, just as though you're going to have with this, either the copper mine in Idaho, probably, maybe, I don't know, and maybe the gold mine that you're talking about. They're cutting a 4.5 mile long face of lignite. 20 years before, they had established on site an environmental study program in a building that they built, Texas Utilities built and funded, and they had a selection process to bring in PhD candidates in everything known to man about flora and fauna and coal, the soils, etc. So since they had started it 20 years before, I got to see the results. So they take me to the north part of the mining where they're cutting this face. And we looked at this face that they're cutting. And we looked at where all the trees and shrubs were and everything else. And it's natural. They're cutting away the natural land. Now, it looked like anywhere else you'd out in the desert, sort of desert country, dry country. We go down to the other side of the south side of the mine where they had been reclaiming it for 20 years. They had studied and engineered the refilling of that side, including putting in soil, and planting shrubs, flowers, trees, etc., and did it in an engineering plan to allow the animals pathways to go through there and be protected. So I didn't see any animals on the north side. On the south side, they were present. Small little rodents. I saw some rabbits. Didn't see any deer, but they said the deer go through here generally in the evening or in the morning. So it is a great site for whoever this woman is that has a mining project here to go down and look at. They had done a wonderful job of reclamation. And yet still the hysteria was around the country on all of this surface mining that was destroying the country. All of those people that needed to do that owned those mining, let's go down to the Big Brown Mine in south of Dallas and look at what they've done and duplicate it. They bring the people in. Don't avoid them. These people that we call environmentalists, some of them are great because they actually mean it and they study it. They study the flora, the fauna, the soils, the atmosphere, etc. Get them on site. Pay for them. Pay for them to live there. Run a statewide program in Idaho with the colleges and universities and look for graduate students or students that want to run these kinds of research projects. Give them the money, put the stipends there, build them a building to live in for a year or two to do these. Do exactly the same thing that Texas Utilities did down there. And we won't have people wondering what's going to happen when we get done with this mine because they will know what they're going to do with it.
It's a compelling case. You know what I think? I think I need to get on a plane to go see the Big Brown Mine. I think that's what needs to happen.
I think it's probably still going because there was a huge vein of lignite there. And I would suspect, well, of course, with the shutting down of coal mines, they might have already shut the lignite there fed as I recall, two 550 megawatt coal plants. They're lignite plants, which is the lowest rank of coal. It's not like Powder River Basin coal. Powder River Basin coal is great coal. Lignite is the dirtiest there is.
And the dirty, as we've talked about a couple episodes ago, the dirty versus clean coal has to do with thermal capacity that it can produce when it burns. It has to do with the moisture within the coal. It has to do with essentially aging and breakdown of it. So when we have clean coal versus dirty coal, it's the same as burning some super fresh cut, nasty pine tree full of like oil and gross and pine needles versus some dried out oak or, apple or cherry or something that.
Yeah, that's what the Clean Coal Technology Development Program that the Department of Energy came about in the mid-'80s came up with. And the leading project, and I know it well, I knew several of them, was the Clean Coal Technology Demonstration Project that was done at the Buckskin Mine about 30 miles north of Gillette. Now, there are people that are trying to resurrect that. Now, I know that from 1992, when it was proved out until now, every ton of coal leaving the Powder River Basin should have gone through a liquids from coal plant to be shipping a higher value, cleaner coal, at the same time taking the coal-derived liquids and figure out what to do with them. But anybody who wants to do all these mining and stuff, they have somebody to go look at that's a success. Because I went there probably in 1990, and they'd already been doing it for 20 years at the Big Brown Mine. So from 1990 to today is another 35 years. So they can go back and look at the Big Brown Mine, if it's still in operation, or if it closes, okay. Because they will see the results of land reclamation that we need to be thinking about at all of our mines.
God bless
and I'll tell you, there's a big mine that's going in right now. To me, it looks like it's a great mine in not too far from here in northern part of Nevada. There's a huge lithium mine going in. I haven't visited yet. People don't know this, but this fellow and I, George Gershom, are going down to visit it. But it is shaping up to be a great mine. And it is a huge lithium resource, which we need for the country. So there will probably be another example of a good mining project for people to look at.
When are you going to see that?
I don't know. I would like to go down and see it sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because more and more people are calling me about mining. We need mine mouth power.
Yeah.
And we need to provide mine mouth power because at a mine site, you need more power for everything, including what you can do is you can put a concentrator at all these mines, and instead of 100 truckloads a day going out, you can maybe send 50 truckloads a day. And it's a higher value, it's a more valuable.
Oh, so you save on transportation and you have a higher quality
and
product.
Also emissions.
Ah, gotcha.
So put everything at the mine mouth you can, because when you concentrate whatever it is you're mining.
Yeah.
Okay. When you go somewhere to concentrate it, you then have to get rid of it there. Why not put it back in the same hole you just dug it out of?
Makes perfect sense.
So it's more economical. It's better for the environment. It'll have a higher return on investment for the mine owner. Everything about mine mouth power plants is positive.
Listen, you got to go to, I think, DC next week.
Yes.
So we're missing next week. We are still on track. I really want to, it's possible that we may not see each other until after the Western Governors Association, or will we see each other right before that? Probably right before.
Probably right before that.
Great. Okay. Anything else right now about Utah versus Idaho policy?
No, I just think what these governors are doing is great. And I know from Idaho's standpoint that Brad Little is committed to taking advantage of what Idaho has to offer, taking advantage of what President Trump has offered. And now we've seen the governor of Utah start to do the same thing.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to hearing how this goes. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.